Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. We are here to rally in support of the Sexual Assault Initiative. We are so honored to start today with support of Council Member Brooks Powers, who has been such a huge supporter of survivor services and gender-based violence services in New York City. Council Member, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I want to thank Emily Miles and the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault, along with my colleagues that I know will be coming in and out of the press conference today, and all of our partners in the Sexual Assault Initiative, for bringing us together today and for the work you do every single day to support survivors across the city. Today is about something simple, but powerful: standing with survivors, not just in words, but in action. Every day, thousands of New Yorkers rely on these programs from counseling, advocacy, and care in some of the most difficult moments of their lives. And yet, even as demand grows, resources have not kept up with the pace. We know that here in New York City, the rate of sexual assault is increasing. In the first half of 2025, New York City's sexual assault rate was 20% higher than in the first half of 2024. That is why we're here to say clearly, our city must do more. As a council member, I have worked to ensure that our laws reflect our values when it comes to supporting survivors. This year, I was proud to sponsor and pass Intro 1297, legislation strengthening the Gender Motivated Violence Act, reopening the look back window, and making clear that institutions, not just individuals, can and must be held accountable when they enable harm. Because we know the reality, survivors are not always able to come forward right away. And when they do, the system must be ready to meet them with justice, with support, and with care. The same principle applies here today. If we truly believe survivors, then we must invest in the services that support them. Services like those provided through the Sexual Assault Initiative. That means more counselors available when someone is ready to talk. That means stronger hospital-based care. That means ensuring that no survivor is turned away or left waiting in their moment of need. So today, we stand together with advocates, with providers, and most importantly, with survivors, to call for the resources needed to meet this moment. Because standing with survivors means ensuring they are seen, supported, and most of all, never alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council Member, for your continued support. We always know that our organizations and the survivors of New York can stand with you. Thank you so much. So we are here today to call for an increase in funding to the Sexual Assault Initiative and to thank the New York City Council for providing the only dedicated funding in New York City going to supporting survivor services for survivors of sexual violence. We join here today 5 organizations providing critical services across New York City that fill gaps in survivor services that have gone on for too long. For our current organizations, with just over $2 million, have provided profound services over the last year. Over 5,000 survivors served across the 5 boroughs. That includes over 22,000 counseling sessions and over 77,000 times that advocates and forensic examiners have responded to our city's survivors in hospitals as a result of the work happening in this initiative. So, you are going to hear from a number of speakers today that illustrate the critical need to expanding these services. But first, I want to thank Council Member Narcisse for being here. Would you like to say a couple words?
Sure, I'm here to support because it's important. Hello, everyone. It is so important to have organization like this, and I see a lot of young folks coming out because sexual harassment, sexual assault is wrong. It should not be part of our community, but unfortunately it's happening, and having the resources can help organization to do what they're supposed to do for those affected by sexual assault. It is wrong. It's not acceptable for those that have intention of doing it. We want to be clear about it. New York City is not welcoming any assault whatsoever. But we know that we cannot do our work without resources. So that's the reason I'm here to support everywhere I can, to have organization, to give them that, like I said, they're uplifting them, elevate them to do their work. So I'm here to support you and thank you for continuing the great fight, not only as a council member, but as a nurse for over decades. I understand, and I'm here to support you to make sure in New York City we can fight and stand and we can win together. So thank you for your work. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Thank you. Our first speaker today, we are joined by one of our partner organizations, Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. Roberto Rodriguez, please come down.
Hello, thank you everyone. My name is Roberto Rodriguez and I'm from Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. And I stand here today not only as a social worker in training and a rape crisis advocate, but as a survivor. My journey started when I was just 7 years old. For a long time, I didn't have the words to explain what happened to me. And even when I did, I didn't always feel like there was a space for my voice, especially as a young boy. That's why the work of the Sexual Assault Initiative matters. Because behind every statistic is a child like me, a child who's confused, scared, and trying to make sense of something that never should have happened. Today, I work with young people who are going through similar experiences. And what I see over and over again is that healing doesn't happen alone, and it is not linear. It happens when someone shows up, when someone listens, when someone believes them. Advocates are often the first safe person, but the truth is, we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough advocates to meet the need. We don't have enough funding to support the survivors who are willing to and still waiting to be heard. And that is unacceptable. Because every survivor deserves access to support, every child deserves someone in their corner, every voice deserves to be heard. I'm here today not just to share my story, but to stand for those who still can't. For the little boys who are told to stay quiet, for the young people who don't have the language to speak the truth. Funding the Sexual Assault Initiative means funding healing. It means funding safety. It means funding hope. So I ask you to stand with us, invest in survivors, invest in advocates, invest in a future where no one has to go through this alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Our next speaker is from another partner organization, Mount Sinai SAVI, Angie Fernandez.
Hi, good afternoon. Bear with me, my notes are on my iPhone and my iPhone does not like this heat. Emily said, I'm Angie Fernandez. I'm the Assistant Director for Mount Sinai Hospital's Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Program. SAVI is one of the oldest and largest rape crisis programs in New York City and has been around since 1984. Our program provides free and confidential direct services to well over 1,000 sexual assault survivors each year. And that is through by providing our volunteer emergency department advocates and our sexual assault forensic examiners to multiple hospitals across Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. It's through our therapy services that are also free and confidential that are provided by our expert trauma therapists. And it's in the community where our education and training program is able to reach thousands of people every year to talk about issues related to sexual violence, and through either prevention or interventional curriculum. I'm here today to say, first of all, thank you so much to the City Council for all of the past support we've received. We've been provided funding from the City Council for over a decade, and because of that, we've been able to sustain our services and also expand some of them throughout the city with a focus in Queens. The trends that we see among our survivors often mirror the events happening on a global, national, and local level. The trickle-down effect can be subtle or jolting, and not surprisingly, it is most deeply felt by those with the least amount of agency. For example, in Queens, a large portion of the survivors that we serve are Spanish-speaking immigrants fearful of law enforcement and are in need of an array of ongoing services, such as medical, legal, food assistance, and safe shelter. Due to their immigration status, many of our clients are hesitant to seek medical care or engage with government agencies for fear of being detained, of losing custody of their children, or because they're unaware of the available resources that are available to them and that they deserve. Word of mouth is their lifeline. Receiving services from a trusted program like SAVI, where a warm handoff can be made directly to a community partner, to an emergency department where one of our own safe examiners or advocates will be there to support the survivor. An advocacy, is paramount to their safety and to their healing. I also need to say that in order for programs like ours to be able to continue to meet survivors' needs in the way that they so desperately need and deserve, we also have to invest in the staff of our programs that are doing the heavy lifting of this critical work. And when we see the shifts and trends happening to our survivors, it's also felt by the staff and the people behind me that are also there supporting survivors. What's happened and what I can say is that over the past several years, we've seen a steady increase in the needs of survivors and in the complexity of those needs. We have continued to do our best to rise to that need, but we cannot do it without the support of funds from City Council. And we also need to be able to not just sustain our services for the short term, but make sure they're there in the future for survivors that we know, unfortunately, will be in need of services like ours. So I want to just ask the City Council to continue to support the important work that our programs are doing for survivors, and to support it in the way where we have the flexibility to pivot, to be able to address the needs of survivors as they come and also as they change. As the landscape changes, so do their needs. And being able to use funds in a way that makes the most sense for survivors is the best way to provide safety and healing to them. Things like emergency cash, things like being able to provide supplies that are essential to their survival, being able to find ways to provide a meal to survivors are just as important also as all of the other services that we provide. And those are the challenges that programs like ours face. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to thank the council for always supporting survivors and recognizing the importance of this work in New York City. And I also want to thank them in advance for their continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. We're going to continue highlighting the amazing work of the Sexual Assault Initiative partners with our next partner, North Brooklyn Coalition, and we are joined today by Allison Brooke. Allison?
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Brooke. I'm a New York City native, born and raised in Bayside, Queens. And I have been sexually assaulted twice in my life. Like so many survivors, my abusers were people I know and saw often. And every time I bumped into them at an event at school or on the street, the fight or flight dizziness invaded my body. The first time this happened, I chose flight. I was 14 years old, and no one had ever seen me naked. That is, until my assaulter came along. I didn't even know what the phrase sexual assault meant. I was a socially awkward teenager, growing into my body with extremely strict immigrant parents and no one to confide in. After getting severely abused by my abuser and his friend group, I slowly spiraled into depression, focusing only on my schoolwork and alienating myself. The effort in school paid off, and I got into my dream university. I started opening up to people more and going to social events finally. However, somewhere along the way, during the winter quarter of my junior year of university, 6 years later, I was raped. But this time, I chose to fight. I thought I had the right support systems and resources accessible to me, so I decided to make a claim against my assaulter through the Title IX office at my university. I am currently a crisis advocate with the nonprofit North Brooklyn Coalition, and I volunteer at Woodhill Hospital in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Although my journey is ever evolving, the greatest joy I have is knowing I can be the person another survivor confides in. In all honesty, being a shoulder for someone during one of the darkest times in their lives is something I wish I had. One of the best uses of funding is education and accessibility. By supplying survivors with housing, legal, and safety resource information, I can help those struggling in unsafe situations towards a path forward if they so choose. Moreover, through an increase in funding, hospitals can provide more trained translators, bridging language barriers, as well as supplying more trained sexual assault forensic examiners to properly support the survivors of New York City. The main reason I decided to come forward was because I had access to the right resources. And my only goal through volunteering and speaking up here today is to help make survivors feel seen and supported. Thank you.
Our final partner organization, Crime Victims Treatment Center. We would like to welcome Royce Rendon down to speak.
Thank you. This 2-minute speech was supposed to have 2 parts. The first contained my story, a 60-second soundbite of how I was drugged, kidnapped, raped by 2 men last year, all in 13 hours. Part 2 was my hero's arc, how the Crime Victims Treatment Center saved me and brought me to the steps of justice. But I'm not here to be a good survivor. I'm here to share the tools my therapist, Mike, has given me and how I didn't use a single one of them on Saturday. In fact, I was a wreck on Saturday, but not for the reasons you may think. A burner account tagged and named one of the men who raped me on their Instagram story. He matched my timeline and corroborated my testimony, and it's scaring the living shit out of me as we speak. So that's how I spent my week, contemplating the choices that were made for me. But as I sat on my kitchen floor crying, I remembered the choice I made to stand here, not as a good survivor, or a man with the answers, but a human being who cares deeply about the well-being of others. That's what CVTC gave me, the tools to find my well-being, the next best thought from where I stand, to tell the truth without becoming the pain that I seek to change. So today, I choose not to share his name or where it took place. Maybe one day they will try to hurt me for telling you the truth. But instead, I'd like to introduce you to little me, born on Friday the 13th. So yeah, he was a little unlucky, but pretty brave. And his mommy was in a lot of pain, so she stopped feeding and clothing him. But one day, he ran away from her, called the police, and watched her walk away forever in the April rain. And those April clouds may loom from time to time, but blooming beneath all of us are the dreams of little you and little me. So cry with the skies whenever you need to, but don't forget to honor the innocence in you, to make the most of your soils and revel in the spring, because you chose to rise from your sleep, and that's plenty good enough.
We are honored to be joined by Council Member Farías, who is going to say a few words, has been a tremendous champion of gender-based violence supports in New York City and for survivors. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all for standing here on the steps of City Hall. I'm Councilmember Member Farías. I get the honor and privilege of chairing the Women and Gender Equity Committee here at the City Council. I want to begin by thanking the Crime Victims Treatment Center and the partners of the Sexual Assault Initiative for convening us today, and for their continued leadership in supporting survivors of sexual violence across New York City. The work represented here is both essential and far-reaching. In the past year alone, the Sexual Assault Initiative has served over 5,000 survivors across all 5 boroughs, trained more than 33,000 professionals, and provided tens of thousands of counseling sessions and support resources. These figures reflect the scale of need across our city and the role this initiative plays as a lifeline for survivors, one that must be sustained and supported. In the Bronx and in the communities that I represent, access to these services can make all the difference. It can determine whether someone feels safe coming forward, whether they are met with dignity, and whether they are able to begin healing. At the same time, demands for these services continue to grow. More individuals are coming forward, and more communities are seeking support. At the United Nations 70th session this March, I had the opportunity as chair of the committee to engage with the leaders from around the world on many of the same challenges we are discussing today. And that made one thing clear. This is not just a New York City issue, this is a global issue. And here in New York City, we must recognize that the city alone does not have the capacity to meet this need. We are dependent on organizations like those standing beside me to meet an increasing demand for survivor support care. And they need the resources to do so. And that is why these initiatives must be fully funded. Yeah. Supporting survivors requires sustained and increased investment in the systems they provide care, from hospital-based services to community-based advocacy and response. The proposed funding enhancement for the Sexual Assault Initiative is a step in the right direction to expand the much-needed access to services and ensure that survivors receive timely, trauma-informed care. I'm proud to stand alongside all these advocates, providers, and partners who continue to advance this work. And I'm proud to be in your corner as we provide to stand up, and we continue to stand up for prioritizing the well-being and dignity of survivors across our city. Thank you for letting me stand with you all today.
Thank you so much. Over the last several years, the New York City Alliance has conducted a tremendous amount of research about access to survivor services across New York City. And what we have found is that despite a robust network of rape crisis programs, many of whom are standing behind me, we still do not have the quality and access of services across the 5 boroughs to truly meet survivor need. Of the 51 hospital emergency rooms across New York City, only 3 report having enough advocates to meet the number of survivors they see on an annual basis. Over 50% of survivors who report to a hospital emergency room receive a forensic exam from someone who is not trained to do so. Initiatives like the Sexual Assault Initiative seek to fill those gaps. We are currently funded at just over $2 million. By increasing that funding to $2.5 million, we can work collaboratively to ensure that survivors, when they enter an emergency room, are greeted with trained forensic sexual assault examiners, with an advocate who is trauma-informed and survivor-centered, and once that experience is over, they are able to access continuing services, counseling services, and ongoing mental health care. That is what this initiative provides, and we are so thankful for the City Council for providing the only funding in New York City that supports this type of care. Thank you so much to the council members who are willing to join us today. Thank you so much for our partner organizations, Crime Victims Treatment Center, Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, Mount Sinai SAVI, North Brooklyn Coalition, and the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault. Thank you so much for standing with us. Thank you for standing with the survivors in New York City.